Everest Live. Welcome to Summit Season 2026. Today was the first big day on the summit of Mount Everest, and we have some information coming through, although because teams are still making their way down the mountain, it's going to take a couple days to figure out exactly how many people summited today, but we're going to take an educated guess at it. I'm Ben Ayers, coming to you live from Everest Base Camp on today, May 17th, 2026. All right, so let's get into it. Basically, as predicted, what we saw, tons of people heading up to the summit of Mount Everest today, early this morning, and actually throughout the day, which is kind of interesting. So in terms of total summits, I think we are in the range of what I guessed yesterday, which was like 80 plus. I've heard 70, I've heard 100. Nobody really knows yet because information's still trickling back in, but here's what we know. First of all, we know that 2 world records were broken today. Our good friend, who we just had sort of a live AMA with, Rita Sherpa, made it to the top for his 32nd ascent. Great news, congratulations to him. That's a world record for the most times any human has ever stood on top of Mount Everest. There was another record broken today that's getting a little less attention, but I feel is equally important, which is our friend Lhakpa Sherpa of the Netflix movie Mountain Queen fame. And she went up for her 11th ascent today, which is the most of any woman in history. So we want to celebrate both Rita and Lhakpa. They're both testaments to how strong Sherpa climbers are. They're also testaments to how Mount Everest doesn't really get boring. You can climb it 32 times and still learn something. So really psyched for both of them. In terms of other data, there's with different groups, we've been seeing, 8K Adventures had 20 members, 20 clients and 20 Sherpas summit today. 14 Peaks Expeditions put publicly that they had 2 Chinese and 5 Sherpas. There's a bunch of other information trickling in from other groups, but like I mentioned earlier, we'll get into the details and the data when we actually have the details and the data to share. Up on Nuptse today, Kristin Harila did make it to the summit of Nuptse about midday today. She was accompanied by Tenzing David Sherpa with Asian Trekking and a number of other climbers as well. That was a kind of a joint expedition. So congrats to everybody on Nuptse. Kristin climbed it without oxygen, which may or may not be noteworthy, as there's generally a tradition of climbing peaks under 8,000 meters without using supplemental oxygen. To our knowledge, she's heading down to Camp 2 to rest and then go up, and then she'll go up and try to climb Lhotse without oxygen. That's basically the news that I know. We've heard some rumors of some rescues of some difficult situations up high, although we haven't heard anything about serious injuries or fatalities. And I'm optimistic and praying that that news remains as such. But whenever I run out of things to speculate about on Everest, we bring in our very special, good friend, great dresser, and Everest expert, Arnold Coster, who's sitting next to me right now. Arnold, great taste in down jackets, I'd have to say.
Yeah. Looks like we're going to the same shop.
So Arnold, let's talk about, I want to, you've been kind of on the radio, you've got team members up high, and you have a lot more experience in terms of what probably went on, last night and this morning up on the mountain. So let's just first start with the records with Rita and Lhakpa Didi. Anything to comment there? Anything interesting?
No, but it just shows that the Sherpa people are still far superior than any other climbers on the mountains. They just keep climbing the mountains. Effortless, looks like.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah. Rita just so casual, both of them just so casually walked up there. Whereas, but so like on the other hand, when we're talking about the paying clients that are up there, we have been hearing kind of on the radio different stories about the big challenge, it seemed like today, was getting enough oxygen for people. Is that kind of what you heard on the radio and read between the lines?
Yeah, it looks like that some people are either using more oxygen than they booked, or some of the oxygen was lost because there was a lot of talk about where are the oxygen bottles, but also all the oxygen bottles were found. But I think for me it proves that those early summit days are always a little bit risky logistic-wise, because there's not much backup. So if something is missing, usually immediately you have a problem. While late in the season, you can work together with other teams on the mountain and usually fix the problems more easily.
And so, you know, I think that the logical question would be, well, since the fixing of the higher camps this year was so abridged due to the late opening of the icefall, did that contribute to some of those logistical challenges, or is this a regular thing that you see on these first big summit days?
It's a regular thing because there are always people who want to be the first and they want to go to the summit fastest. But of course, the late opening of the icefall contributed because the Sherpas have to make an X amount of carries to the South Col in order to get everything in place. And if people want summit this fast, you can wonder if the Sherpas had enough time to do their job.
And so, even though we've seen summits today, will there be additional carries up to Camp 4 and up on the mountain to resupply and to bolster the stocks of oxygen and other materials there?
Yeah, of course. Sherpas keep climbing to the col every day from different teams. There are many teams who aim for late summit on 24th. Those Sherpas are carrying up. So there will be Sherpa traffic every day to the col until the season stops.
Yeah. Incredible effort by those guys. Let's talk another thing that, Arnold, you and I have been talking about a little bit off the record that I wanted to dive into today, are different techniques that different communities use, different nationalities use to get to the top. And in particular, one of the things that's made the 2026 season special or different this year is that this is the first year where the biggest demographic of climbers were climbers that were coming from China. And we have a few friends who are guides for Chinese companies and bring Chinese, and they tend to take a bit of a different approach than the standard Western approach. Is that right?
Yeah, it looks like that Chinese people do a lot less rotations than the Western climbers. So there are a few Chinese teams here on the mountains. They go in a single push to the summit. So without doing any rotations, they just go to Camp 2. See if they continue the plan from Camp 2, go straight to Camp 4 and go summit to minimize time on the mountain. And their idea is if they spend less time on the mountain, they stay stronger.
Interesting. So there is kind of this back and forth. You know, I know that, you know, Jam, who we were talking to, you know, like for climbers without oxygen, there's kind of this question, like, do I spend more time acclimatizing and get more tired, or do I spend less time acclimatizing but have more energy? And it's a similar sort of equation with those groups, right?
Spending time on the mountain is always a compromise between gaining acclimatization and deteriorating from fatigue and not good food and not good sleep. So there's a trade-off. And if you would have asked me like 23 years ago, how should I acclimate? I would send my people much higher on the mountain than what I do now already. So in the last 23 years, we really start to believe that we should not go that high and spend that much time. We just spend the minimal time on the mountain to get those red blood cells, and that's it. So my vision already changed a lot in 23, but the Chinese push it even more to the extreme.
Yeah. And so to sort of spell that out, it's like, you know, we see certain Chinese teams that will come and they just spend a couple weeks at base camp, hanging out, and then they basically make one push right up the mountain, no acclimatization. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
And
it seems to work very well for the last couple of years already.
Yeah.
So it might be that Chinese people have a different genetics than Western people maybe, because we never saw so many Chinese people on the mountain before, so we don't know. So
right.
that might be a factor.
Right, but like you, it seems to work for them. Like they have a success rate that is comparable to other teams that use the more traditional acclimatization rotations, right?
That's correct, but don't forget they're always climbing teams that have good support and they use a fair amount of oxygen too.
Yeah, totally. Another thing that, you know, that's been coming into, and this is sort of isn't related to any of our summit pushes today, but I figured since I had you, we could talk it through. One of the other technological advances in Everest climbing are oxygen regulators that increase the flow of oxygen so that clients can go up, or climbers, anybody can go up on more oxygen per minute than they were able to previously. What were the, like, why didn't this happen sooner? And tell me, like, some of the ethical and logistical debates that come with these new regulators and some of the numbers behind it.
So I don't know why it didn't happen sooner, but we used to have a Russian system that's called POISK, and the maximum flow of that regulator always been 4 liters a minute, so that was the limit.
Yeah.
And then of course the size of the bottle always been the limit too, and the weight, because the more flow, the faster you finish your oxygen, the more bottles you need, the more Sherpas you need. So I think that always been a limiting factor. But now with the new, this system is from Summit Oxygen, the new regulators go even to 8 liters a minute. That means the double amount of the old POISK regulators.
Right.
But you need a huge support for that to allow that consumption of oxygen.
And so, like, the traditional bottles of oxygen right now hold, they're 4-liter bottles, right?
Yeah, correct.
And so if I'm going, and they're under, and what's the maximum pressure at base camp, say, that you can put in
let's
those?
say at the South Col, you will find 250 bars in the bottle.
Okay.
So that means there's roughly about 1,000 liters of oxygen inside each bottle.
Each 4-liter bottle.
Yeah.
So if I'm going on 2 liters a minute, which is kind of the classic dosage.
Yes.
That bottle is going to last me
8 hours.
8 hours.
Yeah.
But if I'm going on 8 liters a minute, that bottle is going to last me 2 hours. Is that correct? Did I do the math right?
Yeah. I also think a little bit because I've never been on 8 liters a minute.
And so I think that there's kind of this there as well. There's a debate between the additional safety margin that oxygen gives you, and the exponentially larger amount of oxygen that you need, and that creates kind of this pyramid effect of the number of people that have to get that oxygen in place for you.
That's correct. So somebody who climbs on, let's say 8 liters a minute, probably needs 4 Sherpas for support, and somebody who climbs on 2 liters a minute probably has enough with 1.
Right.
Yeah.
And so on one hand, you're employing that many more people. On the other hand, you're putting that many more people's lives at risk.
That's correct, because all the oxygen is also carried through the icefall, and it means so many more extra rotations for the support team.
Yeah, 100%. And so another thing too, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but people also like to say, like, okay, well, when you're on 2 liters a minute, the actual summit elevation is X. When you're on 8 liters a minute, it's Y.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with those equations?
Yeah, I'm familiar. No, not exactly, but it depends also a lot how much energy you use.
Yeah.
But roughly, if you're on 2 liters a minute, it's like 1,500 meters lower.
Okay, so then that would bring the summit of Everest down to 7,300.
Yeah, we're with moderate exercise.
Yep. And so then what if I'm on 8 liters a minute? Doing the same
I don't know
exercise?
exactly, but I'm guessing it's going to be more like 4,000 meters.
Right. So it's like putting you lower than than base camp. Basically.
Yeah, you can almost get sick when you get back in base camp if you stop the oxygen.
Yeah. Cool. Well, so Arnold, I just wanted to finish up. I know there'll be a few questions for us before we jump into those. Last thing I just wanted to know is I know you've been in touch with your teams on the mountain. I wanted to ask how everyone's doing and if you have any updates on weather conditions up high right at this very moment.
Yeah, so my team is great. I have one guy sitting on the South Col from Brazil. His name is Murilo, and he's hoping to go for a summit push tonight. He said the South Col looks windy, but he thinks the wind is mainly from thermals because it's been so hot in the day. So usually when it cools down in the night, the wind will stop. And he's aiming to leave tonight about 10:30 for his summit push. And he says there's about 80 other climbers on the South Col.
With him going up.
With him going up. And then the rest of my team, they had a rest day in Camp 2, and they will continue to Camp 3 tomorrow, I would say leisurely to save energy, and they will leave maybe 8 o'clock to go to Camp 3.
Perfect. And so one of the things we do want to point out is that one of the reasons why this year we don't have a lot of information on actual immediate summits is because people are actually spreading out. Usually one team, if it's a super crowded year, I can just call up 8K and they'll be like, yeah, we got this many people on the summit, and boom, that information's done. But this year, as we mentioned before, because we have such a great weather window, the teams are spreading out, and actually 80 people going for the summit it's not like apocalyptically crowded.
No, that's very manageable because people leave at different times. They all spread out, so not everybody's on the bottleneck. And I must say, this good weather window is saving the season, because if people would have been jammed in the same weather window, I wouldn't know what the have happened this year, but it looks like the weather's on our side, and that's good.
Yeah, it's a good thing. So Andy, what do we got for questions?
A question in from Adam Sweeney's mum. The Irish team are in Camp 3. She just wants to know what the weather in terms of the wind looks like for the next couple of days.
Arnold?
I think the wind looks pretty good. So what you will see is that the mornings always have a little less wind than the day. So at the day heats up, we get more wind. So I think if they climb tomorrow to the South Col, at the end of the day, they might encounter 40 km/h winds, but that is very normal for the South Col. Then on the summit push, I think the winds will die down again in the night, and the same thing in the morning, the next morning. When the sun comes up, the wind will increase a little bit, makes it a little bit harder, but all the winds will be very in the acceptable range.
And the winds that we're seeing are, as you mentioned earlier, and as Murillo, so we've reposted a lot of Murillo's stuff. He's a good friend. Check him out. Send him a good, like, if you guys follow him, Murillo Vargas, send him a little love, even though he won't get it till he gets back down to Camp 2. But what we're seeing now are these thermal winds. This is not jet stream induced winds, correct? This is just from convection of, you know, the heating of the valley. It pushes winds up the mountain, and that's why you see those cycles.
Yeah, and that's why you see it going up and down in the day, and it's not strong the whole day. This comes in time waves, so it's most windy at the end of the day, cools down, the wind goes down, and the process will start again the next day.
Great.
Someone asked why there's no live streams up high of people summiting. They've been looking.
Well, because there's no internet up high. That's what it is. Some of us at Everest Live have ambitions to maybe pull this off in the next couple of years, but it's actually quite complicated to get permissions to use internet up that high from the Nepali government, especially because it's literally on the Chinese border. Things are really sensitive. So there's no live streams of that. There used to be Everest Link. Those guys used to put out a live stream on YouTube where you could kind of make out the summit, but it's pretty hazy and kind of far away. I don't know if that's been up this year. I think it might be down. So that's why, but keep following Everest Live and maybe we'll be able to deliver that for you in the coming year or two. Let's see, wink, wink.
Yeah.
Do the Chinese climbers have Sherpas and the same support? And do the Chinese climbers actually like not having rotations?
That's an excellent question.
I think they like not having rotations because that's the choice they make when they come. So it's always been the plan. So I can assume that's what they like.
Yeah, they could go on a rotation if they wanted to.
Yeah. Also, Chinese people tend to have really good camps with really good food. The Chinese are the Italians of Asia, so they like food, and food is important, and you will see that in their camps. So it's really nice to hang out in the Chinese camp too.
Yeah. Yeah, Andy and I got invited over to the Chinese camp with our good friend Chung Wei, who invited us over for lunch, and it did not disappoint.
Yeah, and of course they have Sherpas. They have the similar support as all the Western teams, the same experienced Sherpas who do all they can to make their customers' dreams come true.
And to that point, I mean, Rita was climbing with the Chinese teams.
Yeah.
I mean, they get the best in the business to work with them.
There was a question on just mountaineering in general in terms of like getting sponsors and stuff. Is it financially viable for climbers to get sponsors and to make money from mountaineering?
Well, I am sitting next to somebody who has made a life out of answering that question.
Yeah, and the answer is not easy. I think just for mountaineering, unless you become a company owner like me, it's hard to make money. So you need to do a lot of side gigs. You need to do speaking. You need to write articles. You have to make movies. Just from climbing, I think it's hard to make money. So you need to sell yourself out there in order to make money, like any other athlete does.
And is that, Arnold, is that for you personally why you moved into sort of outfitting and guiding? Was because that was to feed your mountaineering habit?
So I don't like to be in the picture too much. I'm more happy to have the teacher's role, to be on the background, share my experience with people. That's where I'm happy. I don't have to stand on the stage.
But one of the things that you do see, you know, in that Everest Live, I mean, we're a part of, is the quote-unquote professional mountaineers now are pretty much influencers. I mean, that's what brands now want. from their teams is more exposure, ways for them to sell more product. And that's all happening now on social media. Let's take a look at Alex Honnold, for example, right? One of the greatest free solo climbers, if not the greatest of all times. But there are also other people out there free soloing that you don't hear of. But Alex, he's out there. He's in the media. He's climbing skyscrapers in Taiwan. He's on podcasts. He's giving interviews. The reason for that is that's how Alex has to make a living as a pro climber. And even the best in the world, the most famous climbers in the world, have to do that stuff, because that's what it takes.
And there was a question on the drone video that we put out earlier.
Yeah.
Are drones going to make porters' jobs irrelevant?
Drones will not. Well, so get a little bit semantic here. A porter, technically, is somebody who carries gear up to base camp, right? And porters often work on trekking expeditions and that kind of stuff. So technically speaking, when we talk about porters, we're talking about people who are load carrying not at extreme altitudes. When we talk about high altitude workers or Sherpas, then we're talking about people at higher altitude. So right now, the drones are reducing work for Sherpas because they're carrying loads from base camp to Camp 1. The Sherpas are thrilled about this, actually. There haven't been many or any Sherpas that I've heard of or that even Airlift has talked to that are not in favor of carrying loads up to Camp 1 because of the risk that carry eliminates. The icefall is the most dangerous part of the mountain, and it's the most dangerous part of the Sherpa's jobs. So they're happy to carry from Camp 1 up and to have the drone do that work. In the future, will drones replace porters who are carrying goods like LP gas and carpets and tents and everything you can think of up to base camp? I personally don't think that drones will eliminate that, just given the technical limitations of drones, line of sight. Helicopters will take a dent out of it. But the thing that's going to eliminate portering jobs in Nepal is porters. Porters would much rather go abroad. They'd much rather work remittance jobs. And that's what we're seeing all across Nepal, is actually the porter labor force is diminishing in and of its own volition, because there are fewer and fewer people who want to do those jobs, and those jobs are being replaced more by pack animals. And then in the future, what's going to happen is anybody's guess, but it's going to be a real factor in Everest climbing in probably the next 10 or 15 years. Do you agree with that, Arnold?
I will agree with it. I think the drones will take over the danger jobs, what is a good thing. And I think the position of the Sherpa will become more like the Western guide. Sherpas are far more knowledgeable, the communication skills are much better, so in the future we'll see the Sherpas will take over the jobs of the Western guides. But there's always the job for the Sherpa to carry to Camp 3, to carry to Camp 4, and to guide the clients to the summit. These are places where drones cannot fly.
My guess too, I'm curious to hear your read on this, Arnold, but my guess is that Everest expeditions will also become a lot more expensive in the next decade and beyond as the labor, as ample labor becomes less common. Those professional trained Sherpas that are working as guides are going to demand more and more money for their services in compensation for how difficult and dangerous it is. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
There are simply less people who want to do this job.
Yeah, great. All right, so one thing that I hate to say to our Everest audience, but we actually don't have that many days left here at base camp. What we're already seeing today, some of the tents being taken down as expeditions go up on the mountain. As people come off the mountain, they don't love to linger at base camp. They either start their trek down or they jump a helicopter and return to Kathmandu. And I also know that that's going to be our fate here at Everest Live. One of the things that, we've been so grateful for is to be embedded here with Arnold. But as Arnold's team returns to base camp, it's going to be time to pack up the camp, and we don't want to overextend our welcome and make the whole camp stay here longer. So what I'm starting to do is saying our thank yous a little bit early. It's always good to thank people. And today I wanted to thank Mr. Arnold Coster, who's become really, truly one of my greatest friends here in Kathmandu. Arnold and I have both lived in Kathmandu for over 20 years, but we only met each other last year.
Yeah, kind of weird.
And now we dress alike.
Yeah.
But also today is a very special day for Mr. Coster. It's his birthday.
Uh-oh.
So I wanted to say thanks to Arnold on our behalf, on behalf of our Everest Live community, for being a mentor to us and to being kind of an oracle. Arnold's helped me understand Everest better than probably any other single person I've known in my years here. And that's happened, since we've become friends and since we started working together. And Arnold's been really generous by letting us sort of embed with his camp this year. And honestly, it's been like such a great experience for us. The food, everything has been so well organized. And so, I'll plug Arnold Coster Expeditions for people who are looking for a climbing experience that isn't that's old school in all the right ways. That's really sensible, simple, but extremely comfortable and safe. I highly recommend Arnold. And as a birthday gift from Everest Live, we have a small present for you, Mr. Coster.
I wonder if I have this one.
An Everest Live t-shirt.
Good.
Hopefully it's the right size. If not, we'll change it out.
This is the hoodies. So
Yep.
you sell this also online, right?
Yeah, we do.
Good
But-
plug.
Yeah. I
But
think
Good plug, Arnold.
we'll look good in the bar.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
But we've been saving that for you all season. We didn't know it would be your birthday today because Arnold is not a big birthday guy. But we want to give you a huge thank you from our community.
Thank you, guys.
Just to be clear, this isn't our last broadcast.
This is definitely not our last broadcast. I'm just getting my thank yous out of the way. And we're going to keep broadcasting until everyone has summited the mountain. We're probably the last 2 or 3 days will be done from Kathmandu with Spot. But we'll be kind of moving with Everest, with Arnold's team off the mountain, probably in 5 or 6 days from now. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, let's see what happens with the team, but maybe we'll fly out around 24th of May.
Yeah, something like that. So stay tuned. Your content is not going to go away. Even when the Everest season is over, I have filmed so much stuff here to Andy's absolute terror and anger with me. We have 15 features lined up that Andy is just chipping away at the edit of. So you're going to be seeing Everest content for the rest of the year and definitely the rest of the season. So yeah, we're not going anywhere. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Like and subscribe, all that stuff.
We'll put Arnold's contact details in the liner notes.
Yep,
'Cause
and
people
we'll-
are asking about what can they join treks and stuff.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. So we'll put links to Arnold in the liner notes. He's the Everest Live OG, and we got more exciting stuff coming down the line. New films out today about airlift drone technology and also altitude safety with the Himalayan Rescue Association Everest ER team. Talk to you soon.